Alright, welcome back. Hope you're having a good day. This is my Ficus Concinna tree. I'm going to work on a couple trees fairly quickly today. This tree I was planning on working this spring, but as you can see it has no leaves right now. We're 2 weeks out from the hurricane, and this one, it's called wind desiccation. This one, the day afterwards, all the leaves were just hanging down on it, pretty much like looking deflated. But all the leaves were gone, and you can even almost tell that all these growing tips look almost burnt. And that's pretty much what the wind desiccation is. I think a lot of it, from the hurricanes I've lived through so far and everything, a lot of it comes from the winds that we get kind of either after or before that don't come with the rain, and it just seems to just dehydrate the leaves, and then they just yellow up and fall right off. But anyhow, the general idea was I was going to do what I'm going to do to it today in the spring. And I figured now, since I can see it, I might as well go ahead, since I can get a good look at what I'm doing and everything. I'm going to go ahead and just do it now. I'll probably clip all the growing tips because they all do look burnt. A couple of them have some green in them, but I might as well just kind of even it up a little bit now. First thing I was planning on doing, I've got a couple viable branches here. And then kind of comes up to some twiggy growth. I'm going to take the apex down to one of those twigs. Allow that to become the new apex, or at least it's just where I'm chopping it right now. Before we even take a close look at it, I did want to show you just how many figs are on a couple of these branches here. This branch is just covered in them. There's even a few right up at the base there. And then you can see these two. When the leaves were on it, I could see that there was some figs on it, but I had no idea that there were so many thick clusters of them. And then it's just kind of odd that one of the lower branches, this thing is just almost covered in them. When I gave you the close-up look at the figs, I don't know if you guys could tell, they're covered in ants. There's just ants attacking the tree all over it. I thought they would fall off really easily, they're not. Falling as quickly as I thought. Most of the thicker branches I'm keeping, I'm planning on wiring up. I don't really want to wire on top of them anyhow. They do seem to be a little more fresh and sticky than I thought they would be. I guess let me just pop a few of them off here. It's funny, if they were bigger, they'd almost look like black-eyed peas.
Hey, baby.
Some of these, that one almost had a look, I didn't say anything before I got it, it almost had a look of where I had tried to kind of get a little bit too much movement in it, and it was actually just nothing but pure dieback. And as much as I was planning on wiring some of this stuff, I wonder if I should just clean out the dead parts and just kind of let this go for the winter. I actually think I might do that instead. Maybe wire a couple of the main branches up a little bit. I repotted it about 1.5 years ago, and I have been just kind of letting it grow. And much like the other trees that I'm going to bring in a minute, I have no doubt it is going to bounce back. But it really is looking in some rough shape right now. And I do think it was a good chance to just go ahead and reduce it. And then, so now I think I'm going to go ahead and let it get its first few flushes of the spring. Alright, and then there are these two microcarpa cuttings. These are tiger barks. Last weekend, when I wanted to get a couple last repot projects in, I had actually considered repotting both of these. They both were like just green and lush as could be. And I was going to repot them with the idea of perhaps being able to work them a little bit harder in the spring. But actually, I want to do a real aggressive repot with them. I kind of remembered that part of the reason why I like my smaller cuttings is that I can control the stump a little bit more. You can with the bigger trees, or even when you buy something that's already bigger. And so I just wanted to be able to repot them like really aggressively in the spring when they recover a little more than now. And then just all of a sudden I noticed in midweek this one started turning like really yellow. And then just over the last couple days, just lost every leaf. And you can see that every one of these growing tips are just burnt. I'll get back to that other one in a minute. But it really did just kind of bring this tree to its knees. Actually, I mean, had I repotted it, I probably would have cut all the growing tips anyway. I might not even known that it was going through that. And I think either way it'd be fine, but now at this point, I definitely don't want to repot it. I am going to go ahead and just kind of cut all these growing tips off. This branch I'd been intending on taking off for a while anyway. I was just kind of leaving it there so it could build up a little bit of taper, coming straight up off the trunk. What I thought was one day is either I could cut off one of these sides and just have really cool movement coming off one way, or try to grow like a twin tree off of both sides of it. I am gonna go ahead and try to leave as many of the little twigs as possible. But since you can already tell here, I mean, sometimes you have to be really in person to tell, but the way that those growing tips were dying back, you could just tell it was just going to kind of shrivel up anyway. So I'm going to cut it down to something like this. If it only buds back here on the main trunk, it'll be fine. I'll just have to cut back to those first few. I'd like to get a little bit of if I could get back budding off of all of these little twigs, it'd be better than just the main trunk. See if you guys can see this, but right there's already a little bit of a bud coming right out of the trunk anyhow. And then one of those weird things, I know it's going to rebound, but it just kind of sucks. It's got to look this awful. And then this one was so much greener last Saturday than it is now. And you'll notice that a bunch of leaves will even fall if I do that. Not sure if that's a wind desiccation issue problem or if this just fall for this tree and everything. But what I'm going to do is go ahead and just pop. It's got this little sprout coming off this way. Nothing all that interesting, but at the same time, the lower the branch, the thicker the trunk can stay underneath of it. Then it's got one more branch coming off here. And then a little knot of branches where all of these other ones are almost coming out of the same spot. And since I just worked the other one pretty hard, I'm just going to do the same thing here. And if this one was getting ready to shed all its leaves and just kind of have that same dieback issue, I'm just going to go ahead and do it for it real quick. I'd like for these two trees to stay about the same development anyhow. Not much to it now, but they don't really need all that much to go through the winter with anyway. It'll build up a bunch more energy next spring. And I did decide to put a bit of wire on it, just mainly so that this one's clearly a branch and it doesn't have two apexes. And then just went ahead and got a little bit of movement in the top there. Alright, and then there's this little handsome guy right here. Not quite as big as this is one of the Ficus Microcarpa, the one that I have the most of. It is a little bit of a smaller cutting than most of my other ones, but one of the things, this is actually one of the ones I took, and you'll see a little more of it once I prune it here. But this is one of the ones that I took before I realized you could really take those big thick cuttings. And since I have had it now for going on maybe 4 or 5 years, it's thick enough and it has no big chop scar. There are a couple little scars in here. There's one here from where I have shortened it a little bit and everything. That might have even been where I shortened it when I took the original cutting. But a little more gradual taper, and it doesn't really have just that thick cutting look like the other ones have. I think those are all going to look great one day, but they're just going to take a little time to grow out. Yellowing leaves on here, I'm not really sure if this is wind desiccation as well, or if this is just, you know, fall in Florida. But I was considering this wire has been on for a long time. I don't have a playlist for this guy, so I'm not sure. I couldn't find the video. And it's time for the wire to come off, and I was kind of considering, am I going to go in and try to take the wire off and try to leave all the foliage, or am I going to take it off too, and then it actually makes taking the wire off a little bit easier. I'm going to go ahead and just take it all off, simply because it is paling a little bit, and this is one of the ones that I've let go all summer, so it's slightly leggy. Again, not the greatest time of year to do it, but being in Florida, this will backbud, no issues at all. Alright, take a look at it here before I take the wire off. Pretty sure I'm going to fast forward a little bit through some of the pruning there, but I did start pruning off the sacrifice branch before I even realized it was the sacrifice branch. You might have heard me say something. But then I took a look at it. I was going to leave this and just maybe either cut it back to there or hope it kind of grew out. But I think at this point I'm just going to get rid of it. And now I won't have as big of a scar to worry about healing down here. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and give this guy a hard prune and take some wire off too. Everything is the same as pretty much as that last tree I just had in here, except this one is obviously quite a bit of a bigger cutting. So I'm just going to go ahead and roll with it here. Alright then, do want to simplify. Couple pieces it up a little bit. I think within the next repotting, I think this thing is really going to look awesome.